Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. Right now we'll be discussing another Hallmark Christmas movie called Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Now I initially wanted to do this before or on Thanksgiving Day, but yeah, circumstances didn't warrant it at that moment. But I want to do it now because I got at least a good, at least over a dozen movies I want to cover before Christmas comes about. I figure I need to get a jump on it now, so I won't be rushing so much, especially since next week I will be reviewing Spider Verse before No Way Home comes out. I'll be wrapping up the Spider-Man filmography that I just reviewed, since the past a handful of weeks. By the way, if you want to hear my thoughts on all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films and all the Mark Webb films and the most recent one that I did with the John Watts MCU Spider-Man films, they're all on the channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. All the links are in the description, as well as follow me on my Twitter at talkativecarl if you want to know whenever I'm going live or what I'm about to do, so you can be on a jump on my Twitch and or YouTube so you can watch it live. Also, speaking of which, if you want to watch my walkthroughs, video game walkthroughs on my Twitch channel where I play video games a lot around between 6 to 7 p.m. a specific time. Currently, I'm playing Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. You can go on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/talkativecarl, if you want to join me live, talk with me. I've been having great conversations with and connecting with a lot of people in the past few days. A lot since I started a channel a couple years ago, but more so as the channel started growing. So yeah, definitely come on by. And definitely if you want to further support the channel, you can definitely follow me on my Patreon. That's patreon.com/talkativecarl. Links are in the description. And mostly the tiers are just, what kind of stuff that you particularly want me to cover and give my insight on, or better yet, join me live so we can have a one-on-one discussion, or 1v3, 5, 10, 20, how many, wherever you guys want to jump on to give your input. Definitely check that out and see what's your cup of tea on the tier list. Anyway, love at the love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade. Now, I did one or two other Hallmark, pretty sure just one other Hallmark Christmas movie just the other day, or at least earlier this week. Now, every time I do a yearly Christmas movie review, I want to throw in at least a few Hallmark / Lifetime Christmas films into the mix to give my input, because sometimes, not sometimes, every year I find it like my own personal tradition just to watch Christmas Hallmark movie trash. I don't know why. It's just something that's personally, I just want to relax and just watch some trashy Hallmark Christmas movies. There's a certain charm to them that I find appealing. That's why I usually keep going back. It's the only time I watch Hallmark stuff anyway. But every once in a while, there's a few movies that actually not bogged down by so much of the same old cliches when it comes to these Hallmark films like they used to be back in the day. However, there's certain gems like this one I'm talking about that I think it's definitely a watch, but you know, I'll give my insight and see what I liked, what I disliked, and yeah, let's get right down to it. So this movie stars uh, Autumn Reeser playing Emily Jones, Antonio Cupo playing Henry Williams, and there are main characters that we're following along. Now, she's a Thanksgiving parade coordinator, and he's a wealthy consultant. I know they do sound very cliche, kind of like uh, occupations for these kind of movies, but just bear with me here. Now, uh, while she's being tasked with coordinating these this event, and this is based in Chicago, which is the first thing I want to bring up. I appreciate, because me being from Chicago myself, I love it, because it's not like, because more often than not, when you watch these Lifetime Christmas movies, they're usually either based in hell of the time in New York City, or or just if they in like a big city, they go out the city to shoot on location to some small town, country, whatever, in like a rural area, and pretty much I'm assuming is save themselves on some money. Most of the time, that's why I feel like that's the case. But it's refreshing where you can get outside of that, because like there's other parts in the U.S. in the middle that's being ignored, and like Illinois in general is like part of the big three of the cities, in or states in the U.S. in my opinion. You got like New York, California, and Chicago. It's like one of the three biggest ones that it's like the big three, and people like just go to. It's like robust kind of cities, but that kind of plays into the story, which I do appreciate. The fact that the main character, Emily, is like I want to say a super deep kind of like historian or anything like that, but I'm feeling her as a character who, because unlike most characters, it's like in like these Lifetime things, it's like, okay, like I super love Christmas. Oh, like I remember having these Christmas cookies, and my grandfather baked these cookies, and it's like it's my only memory of him when I was 10 years old. And like when we bake these cookies, every time I look cookies, it makes me cry. Oh my God. It's like it's cookies. Like I mean, I'm not saying like people can't have like a connection with a particular object or place or whatever like that connect them emotionally towards another person. But unlike the last Hallmark film that I reviewed, there was, I forgot what it was just that fast, but it's on the channel, you can check it out. What I mentioned is how like everything's got to be reminding her about like something or other about why she loves Christmas. And it's like you can't just be in Christmas without it being like the super ultra the Who, Dr. Seuss type of super love of Christmas. And it's like, take it down a notch. I love Christmas too, but it's like, it's not feverishly about it. But this character in particular has love for history, but the city of Chicago itself, and it plays a role into it. You get to see cool landscapes, and more in particular where we have the Thanksgiving Day Parade going down on State Street. You get to learn a bit more. And the school, the fact that even she loves so much when like the main dude uh, when they have like and legit interaction, she's sitting there grilling him about like the history of Chicago, and like assuming like he doesn't know, like he's probably not from the city, so she grilling him about it, and like he just like bam, like in her face, like I know this city, don't try to con me, okay? And anyway, uh she is dating this guy named Brian, who's like a marine biologist. He's overseas, or at least on the ocean, uh, you know, uh, documenting these kind of whales, and they usually Skype their relationship. They've been together for 5 years, and they haven't, and they, like, the only physical interaction they usually have with each other is whenever he's not, out of town. And it's like he spent more time, as it states by one of her friends, he spent more time out of town than at home with you. And most of your relationship is on Skype. I miss Skype. I mean, like, we got Zoom now, but remember Skype used to be a thing. It's kind of going out like Vine at this point. Anyway, and the way she dresses, as a matter of fact, it kind of speaks to her love of history. So it's like she's like vintage clothes. She buys older clothes that kind of makes her look like she was like from straight out of the 1950s / Mary Tyler Moore, which on the surface level I would have easily made fun of that, but later on when she goes through the reason why she dresses like that, it kind of feeds into the narrative, very well. It's like, like as I mentioned in my Hotel Transylvania movie review, you can check that out on the channel too. I mentioned how, like, as that franchise went on, it stopped being just an animated film and just quickly turned into just any old cartoon after the third one moving forward. And they had a distinct movement that tells you who these characters are without them actually have to say anything. Like Dracula, right from the beginning of the first film, he moves very distinctly. Unlike certain characters, like the werewolf pup, well, even the werewolf pups in the first movie move very distinctly. They're hyper. They're, little pups. They, energize little kids. But after the third one, they started moving all zigzaggy, like any old cartoon, like, Teen Titans Go kind of situations, like zigzaggy movements, keys in your face just to distract your kids kind of thing. And it's like, it stopped being like an anime movie and started being like a generic cartoon that it can be in. Look like they can easily be in any cartoon that you randomly turn on, at least these days. So the clothes tells pretty much what kind of person she is. She like, it was way before she even like mentions about what she likes, or what she's into, like the history, before she brought up like what she like the history of the city and everything like that, or even brought up about her job. You understood immediately that she obviously likes, old stuff. She's an old soul type of person in a way. The fact that the way she dresses, because this movie came out in like 2012, I believe, and she is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2012. Yeah, November 4th, 2012 is when this movie came out, and she, she's, the way she dresses is like very distinctly as a purpose to that. If it was made nowadays, it probably wouldn't have even been brought. It's just there just to be there, or quirky, or whatever, without any kind of meaning behind it, just for her to stand out. But she goes down the street walking with her friend, in hopes and dreams, and can't wait to marry this marine biologist dude who, by the way, every time you look at him, if you watch this film, every time you look at the boyfriend Brian, the marine biologist dude, he always got this look on his face. I don't know, it's just the way the actor looks, but he always looks in a way that's either confused or he's trying to figure out a math problem. And it's like he squints a lot, and he's wearing glasses. Like it's something like trying to shine a light in his face, and he's trying to like see. That's the look he's trying to give. Who is bothering me? Y'all remind me about some freaking COVID testing, vaccine, whatever. I already got my vaccine. I'm not worried about that. Anyway, she bumps into Henry, who she doesn't know yet, but he's wearing a hard hat and he's overseeing this, dilapidated building and used to hold, it's kind of like one of those bookstores, like one of those old bookstores that she usually frequents a lot. But, see, I was going to write it down in my notes why, like, because she complains to him about, like, why are you closing this building down? It's it's a landmark area. This is where I went to buy my first Nancy Drew novel and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the job you're working at, shouldn't you know about certain things that's going to be torn down before anybody? Because usually, if as a regular Joe like me and I'm going downtown, and if there's like a spot that used to be there, but I haven't frequented downtown in like a year or two, that would catch me by surprise, but I wouldn't raise a fuss over it because, like, it might be unnerving at first because things, switch up on the fly if you haven't gone around an X amount of time. But it's like you should probably know this more so than any other average Joe, because it's like, but then again, she works in a particular, she's probably not going to be working on every building that's going to be torn down. So, and she's a parade coordinator. She is not like in charge of things being torn down. But that's where she meets Henry, who's a financial consultant to, analyze how, things can be, how people can the cities properly finance a particular building. Like they mentioned later on in the next scene, how Henry helped Miami's basketball stadium, even though she has a gripe against tons of seats, for the average goer being ripped down and being replaced to make more box office seats for the famous people. And, one of her work associates, I don't even know if that's even her boss, but it might be, saying that he increased profits and not profits, but I'm pretty sure profits, but also added to the help of giving people more jobs and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I mean, I'm not a businessman or anything like that. You can correct me, but you would think like, okay, maybe the seats were maybe old, because it's probably a very old building, and wouldn't you replace the seats with better seats, or just like not reinvent, but just renovate? That's the R word I was looking for, the seats. Because in the movie theaters, at least I'm pretty sure everywhere, but more specifically, I remember in Chicago how, like, when I was younger, the movie seats that we had were like regular cushion seats, but they after a while, it kind of like static, because after a while they were all slowly but surely being replaced with the recliners that we have now, and it's probably been that way for a good almost 10 years, maybe a little bit more. They replaced the seating So now we have like, recliners where you can sit back, it's comfy and everything like that. You can more easily snuggle up against whomever you're with at the time, kind of thing, or like be with your family on reserved assigned seating. Speaking of which, got to remember first thing Monday, I want to buy my Spider-Man No Way Home ticket right away. I cannot forget that. Sorry, just I've been like focused on like that was top of my mind. Do not forget, midnight on that. As soon as Sunday turns to Monday midnight, I gotta be on that website and like buying my ticket. I cannot forget that. Anyway, she and him blow up. Got a confrontational about like, you don't tear down this building. But even though the building's dilapidated, and I'm pretty sure, since I don't know if she lives downtown. She looks like she lives downtown, or at least close by. And it's like, how often do you go by? And that's another thing. How often do you go by that building? If you walk in that same pathway to work, you have to pass by this building. At some point, you will think because usually there's notices or like it's boarded up, or if you frequent there at all before it actually closed, you should have known that it was going to be closing soon if you frequented a lot. Or I don't know, maybe you haven't gone there as much, but it could go either way. But part of me feels like you should easily have known, and the way you kind of like, I want to say blew up, but it's kind of like you got like a bug up your ass about a bookstore building that you could have, because like buildings don't just immediately just like get boarded up and shut down and tore down right off the bat. The people who own the building have to be like giving out notice like, hey, we got like the final sale type of stuff, going out of business thingy. Because like Toys R Us, after a certain period, when we all knew there was gonna be like the franchise is gonna be done, they have like flyers and advertisement like kind of thing way before they just finally close its doors forever. There was like a process. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, when she gets to work, she meets Henry officially. Don't give him like any type of consideration about who he is underneath his occupation, because he is, is true to a lot more, not just Hallmark movies, but a fair bit of movies in general, especially when it comes to romantic movies. They always do this. They usually do this thing where like you got these preconceived notions about a particular person, given the fact that like, oh, he's rich, he's good looking, so he's gonna be like a Hugh Hefner type of guy. So I wouldn't be caught dead with a man like that kind of situation. Then she starts grilling him about like about the Sears Tower, even though if you are not from here and if you hear somebody call it a Willis Tower, that is incorrect technically. Like officially is a Willis Tower, but to a true Chicagoan who grew up in this city, because they only changed the name to Willis Tower at least let's say like, was it a good 5 years, 5 to 7 years at least, somewhere around there. They want to change it into Willis Tower. It's probably 10 more. Who knows how long time has been flying by, but it's been a handful of years where they want to officially rename it to Willis Tower. Why? Don't know. It's stupid. But long prior to the several years, we all have been known to call it. If you haven't been born in the past 7 years up until this point, kids right now will probably refer it to, unless they be corrected on it by their older or elders, But they will probably grew up with the books and stuff, calling it a Willis Tower. But prior to them, everybody else would have called it, who are true Chicagoans, call it Sears Tower. When you visit Chicago at any point, if you're not from here, it's called the Sears Tower. You ask somebody, can you direct me to the Sears Tower if you want to visit it? It's called Sears Tower. Period. I'm sorry. It's just a personal hang up on mine. I'm pretty sure a lot of Chicagoans feel this exact same freaking way. It just, I don't know. I'm feeling like the character right now when it comes to the bookstore, how she feels so passionate about that. I feel very passionate about like my city. It's like, can you imagine if New Yorkers have to call the Empire State Building the John Williams Tower or something like that? They will have a fit. I'm just saying. It's a thing that's always been around. It's been called. It's not like Pluto when it's not a planet anymore. We understand it was on Neverland first, but we get it scientifically. It's shrinking to the point where it's not even the size of the bare minimum of a planet anymore. So it's not really like it's part of the solar system, but it's not like a planet anymore. But you can't do the same thing with a tower that's been around since the birth of the city. But she grills him, and then he tells her about like what his knowledge about the Sears Tower and how they renamed it. They even brought up like, where did they get the name of the airport, O'Hare? And you get to know, because honestly, when I first watched this back in 2012, I honestly didn't know about like O'Hare personally. That's one of the few things that, I mean, like, we can't expect every Chicagoan to know everything about Chicago in every nook and cranny, unless you're a historian or you have like a deep love of like a history of a particular city. I'm pretty sure even like some New Yorkers don't know every little piece of information about their city or the history of the city. I do know, fun fact, that Chicago was the first city to have like an organized like sewer system. That's why like a lot of our roads kind of like feel like they're kind of like curvy or kind of like bulky in certain areas, kind of thing, or like got like hills and what have you. But anyway, the O'Hare is a fighter pilot back in World War II who shut down a lot of Japanese enemy planes and stuff like that. And so he was honored by having the airport named after him. Pretty sure right after his after he passed away. So it was like a nice little history thing. Now, I've thought that was very interesting when I first saw this movie back in the day. So, given how she just allowing this guy to get on her skin when he's really didn't do anything wrong, she get the advice from Brian that show him like what you love about the city and stuff like that. And so she takes him on this little carriage ride, or at least horse. It's a little the Cinderella thing, like carriage ride things, but not like a full carriage. And it's weirdly, you put them in like a thing that's really weirdly romantic. Because of course we had those things. I think like almost every major city has those things where you still can like ride on the. From what I've heard, I've never done it before, but from what I've heard, is that it's not as fun as or as romantic as you might think, because you're riding pretty much behind two horses that's probably gonna fart or whatever, and it's not gonna smell good. It's kind of like takes away the romance, or at least the atmosphere of the experience. If you're riding, on a carriage behind two horses, it's probably gonna be farting or going to the bathroom randomly on the street. But the carriage ride is kind of funny because these two kind of like, they must have some serious chemistry on set, because I just love these two bouncing off each other, because like more so impressive than almost any other Lifetime movie or Hallmark movie that I've seen. even before or after this. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a few, but this one in particular always stuck out for me. That's why it's like part. I gotta honestly say, because I think like this is at least one of my favorite Hallmark movies. That's probably well crafted above the rest. Some people might disagree, but I think this is one of the better ones out of the one of the handful better Hallmark movies out of the tons of cliche to hell crap ones. And these two's chemistry is just so spot on. It's so much fun to watch them together. Even though a few times they bicker like an old married couple, but there's some charm to it because, like I'm saying, they gotta have some kind of thing going on behind the set because the way they, talk with each other, it seems like they've been together for at least a few years to like be that comfortable like that. I just like these two together, and it's funny. She's so fun to see when she's like she's like Autumn, actress who's playing Emily. She is like so much fun to watch, especially when she's get all giddy about it's like oh my god, you see like the prey, oh my god, look, there's Santa, and he over the like, are you on vacation or something? and he's like trying to, and she's going over like the thrill and what she loves about this city, and it's like he bringing up like, so why don't we charge people to come to these parades? That way they can cover the cost if once they leave and there's junk on the ground and the city has to pick that up. Who's gonna how much that's gonna end up costing? And she's getting frustrated. It's just the interactions, like when she's trying to get all whimsical, he's just cutting it, cutting her short, like but how much this stuff gonna cost though? It's like it's just fun. And she gets her frustrated face is like amazing. But then the up the carriage ride, she just like lays into him, talking about like you're the kind of man that's like dates supermodels and blah blah blah. It's like it was like, I don't see a ring on your finger, like and then they make a deal. It's like, hey, I promise you, I'll be engaged by Thanksgiving, and like I bet you $5 that I'll do. And it's like, okay, I'll bet you $5 you won't, and they shake on it. So there's another impressive scene. It's like another fun. It's like a fun thing. It's like they end up going to the same grocery store. Crazy. It's like, okay, like y'all go to end up the exact same grocery store. Maybe it's just nearby. Because being shot in the city kind of situation, so the grocery store is probably like in the same proximity. But the odds. And he drives. He doesn't drive himself. He takes a limo ride everywhere he goes. And I understand he's rich, but it's like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he can rent a car and drive himself if he wants. I mean, then again, if I got a limo and I got like that, I can probably just I already take like Lyft rides, wherever I need to get somewhere fast instead of taking regular transportation, but like, I would have gone with a limo ride if I, have the option, sure. But he's going to the grocery store. He sees her shopping. She's in the ice cream section, and just he's sitting there just chuckling as she just like pondering, and it's just like total me. Cause I'm sitting there, cause I'm sitting there like I'm indecisive. If I don't know exactly like in a list or particular, because I plan ahead if I go shopping, especially for groceries, like if there's a particular thing I want, how many of that particular thing do I want? I need to notice stuff for at least a day or two ahead of time, so when I eventually go, I can just grab it, put it in the cart, and move on to the checkout line. That's how I work. But if I surprisingly see something that like oh, this look kind of tasty, and I'm sitting there for a few minutes pondering whether or not to buy it or not, and that's what she was. I'm pretty sure we all been there. But she's like in that aisle, like just looking at Rocky Road ice cream and just like, She takes it out, goes back and put it back in. No. And then she goes back, take it back out, and put it back in her cart. And it's like he's looking along. He thinking it's like it's sweet, it's charming. I think that that's the most charming, realistic thing I see in these kind of movies. And it's like, oh my god, this is like I just love this woman. Uh, uh, but then she just kind of like forget it. I'll put it back. And she got all these cat food because even though she doesn't own a cat, she always feeds cats outside of her apartment as randomly comes by. And then she, sneakily put canned cat food to the side so he won't, because he made a wise crack about, our friend's aunt who took care of stray cats, and calls them her children kind of situations. And she doesn't want to prove them right. So, like, I'll put these canceled aside. And it's like, but then she's like, what are you doing here? Oh, I just came to get some ice cream. And you see the checkout lady bagging Rocky Road ice cream. And you see like a little smirk and thing like, okay. It's like, oh, are you going to get some ice cream? Why you say that? Why would you say that? And see the look on her face, like, why would you say that? It's like, no, I just feel like I'm, like I got like a taste for some ice cream, and he got the exact same ice cream that she was gonna get. As soon as he leaves out the door, she goes right back to pick up the cat food, and then 3 tubs of Rocky Road ice cream. Like, my God, she's a tiny woman, and she like it's like are you a squirrel? You storing that for the winter? Like 3 tubs of ice, and he's like, like big, like, those big tubs of ice cream. She had 3 of those. She initially was gonna get 1, but and then she's struggling carrying them out there. Her tiny self is like, struggling to, carrying those things, and he's still out there. Offered to give her a ride home, and she of course declined and everything like that. But I thought that scene was fun. That was like a fun scene to watch. But next day, they started like, she warms up a bit and like offers like an olive branch in a way. It's like, he's going out to lunch and he's going to this like fancy schmancy place in Chicago, thinking it's like, oh, it's the best restaurant in Chicago kind of situation. And she's like, I don't know if he's like specifically looking for pizza, but it's just he's one of the best, he said, in the city. And she's like, no, I'll take you to the best in the city. And she takes this dive, which is more often than not, dive restaurants by and large usually are the best, restaurants in the city, at least by some circumstances they usually are. Not even just in Chicago, in any city. If you like the person who's been there for since they were children, and if you take in like a friend who's never been there, you will usually take them to like a local bar or a local dive, and not some fancy smancy place to get like the best pizza or the best chicken or the best pasta or whatever. You take them to like something that looks run down but have like this banging food. You know what I mean? And then she regales him about her mother passed away when she was born. She was raised by a cop father. The restaurant she goes to a lot and knows the owner because her father, saved the restaurant from being robbed by a mugger. And she was a little kid at the time, but she always pointed out how cool it was her father stopped the guy without using lethal force. And it's like, whew, yeah, those were the days, wasn't it? A cop, talking to a guy, de-escalating the situation and stuff like that. Whew, if only, right? So he has like a plaque on a wall just to commemorate the occasion, and I thought that was like pretty cool. And Uh, so they started to spend a lot more time together. Uh, of course, like, he brings up, because when she mentions that her and her boyfriend Brian been together for 5 years, but most of the time they usually be on Skype, and he mentions that if a guy has been with a girl, and I kind of agree, I think anybody would honestly agree, if a guy's been with a girl for 5 years and he hasn't proposed by that point, he's never going to, and that's kind of a fact. I mean, that's a universal fact. It's like, like I was talking to my sister about this a while ago, and I'm pretty sure it was my sister or somebody else, maybe a friend. I can't recall who I was talking to this about, but basically, no, it was one of my friends. Yeah, because I told her, like, there's like if a guy who's not gonna complete douchebag or an asshole, and he's like he has a good woman, he's a good person, and he's with a good woman. I there's like at least either 2 or 3 years. By that point, 3 maximum, bare minimum 2. By that point, a guy would immediately know by that point whether or not he's in that comfort zone, knowing that, yeah, I want to be with this girl for the rest of my life. Yeah. Because a year or less is too soon, because, you're not that comfortable with each other yet to be, jumping the broom. But if you're like well into the 5th year and you haven't proposed to this chick, you're definitely not going to. I think a lot of people will agree. 2 to 3 years is long enough for a guy to know whether or not, because, one of my exes, like a long time ago, it's like, I knew I definitely wanted to be with her. I mean, it didn't work out, and, she kind of like fell out of love. It's like a whole thing, but not gonna hash it out here. But like, I knew after the 2nd year, like, yeah, she's a solid chick, definitely a solid chick. But of course, I didn't have like, and of course we talked about it, but it's like I didn't have like a steady job at that time, because I was still like going to school, and that was my only focus. But like, I knew, like, yeah, she was a solid chick. I definitely wanted like to marry that chick. So it's like, a guy would instinctively know if he's not a complete asshole or a douchebag or self-involved or just like a misogynistic pig, he would know what kind of good woman he has on his hands. Especially if they, strictly dating, monogamous relationship, or whatever kind of relationship you might have between each other. After like the 2nd year minimum, he would know. And the fact that, and he also brings up, and which is kind of clever, I don't know how often it's implemented in real life, but he mentions to her, okay, if your relationship's so solid, like, ask him, is there anything he would change about you? And it's like, like a real relationship, you will answer that question honestly. Because there are things, excuse me, there are things, no matter how good a relationship you have, you will be honest and tell that person there's things that, there's a little bit uncomfortable to talk about, but you'll be straight up like, yeah, it's like you can even point out certain flaws in the person without it being into an argument. You can just be straight up. It's like, I recall, because when I slept, when me and my ex girl like sleeping, it was the first time I heard her snore, and it was like a bear hibernating. It was like daunting at first, like this, she was like a little Asian girl, but she got like some curves on her and everything like that, so she was thick. But it's like, she was like snoring, and it was like, wow. But after a while, I got used to it. I mean, I brought it up to her. I think she asked me, I was like, do I have any flaws? Something like that. Like, I was hesitant on answering that question because, like, I've seen too many movies where it's like that doesn't end well if a guy has to answer a certain question that he knows is gonna lead into an argument. But she didn't like. She was playful about it, but it's like, I was still hesitant. It's like I told her like, you're snoring. Snoring kind of like it kind of sounds like Sarah Bear is having an orgy, in a cave somewhere. Uh, but yeah, and she told me about my flaws, but it's honesty, and it's like, there's certain things that you will raise if you're in like a good, solid relationship, and like it's not healthy to be thinking like, oh, I mean, you would a person. I mean, you can say like, oh, she's perfect the way she is. There's flaws about a person, but it is those flaws that you probably like most about that person, above almost anything else. Like after a while, her snoring came out my white noise. For a while I could not sleep without it, kind of situation, and it's be like that. And when Emily asked, Brian, like, is there anything you could change about me? No, nothing. But then is there so things that Henry points out, like the fact that she's studying up on Spanish, because that's what Brian wants her to do, since they're supposed to be traveling and everything like that. Of course, they don't end up together, obviously. But Henry thought that was ridiculous, because like you've been together for 5 years and he's still trying to change you. That's a issue. That's obviously a red flag, honestly. And so when Brian eventually gets home, she expects to be proposed to, and she get all dressed up very fancy, like she's going to a freaking ball or something like that, but she's only going to like the restaurant her father frequent a lot. And of course he doesn't propose. She gets distraught because the guy was like so self-involved and he got his head up his own ass. And luckily, like, somehow Henry was right there outside in his limo, just like, were you spying on this chick? It was weird. Like, you just happened to be there. It's too much of a coincidence to make it not look like you're stalking her. But whatever. But she distraught. They go to this lounge area where she gets, even though she has only like one or two drinks, she says a tiny girl is kind of like, women get drunk faster, more so than guys, because they're got a smaller frame. But she's on stage karaokeing, and she's like, it's fun. And of course he teases her after it, after the night, and because she pukes after like one drink. But it's like, it's funny because like you would tease, because like I said, their relationship is just so like dynamic, and it's like fun to watch them too, because the fact that he teases her like that is just like adds to like the realism of like two people getting really comfortable with each other. And even though she's like hesitant on like exploring anything with Henry, because she's hung up about his mention of a 5-date rule. And according to him, like, if he chooses to goes out with a woman, he gives her 5 dates. By the 5th date, if like the chemistry is not there, he just ends it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And she thought that's kind of ridiculous, but she's the only one who thinks that's ridiculous, because her friend, according to her, is like, actually, that's kind of the most sensible thing. It's like, you will gauge. I think that's long enough for you to gauge, because if you have standards for yourself, 5 days is long enough to gauge whether or not this person is, any reasonably compatible with you. So that way you won't be disappointed and waste your time. And it's not the stupidest thing to do, honestly. But things, actually progress. They go on a date. They go to a Bulls game. Oh, before then, he actually was like a very sweet thing. I thought it was very charming. He helped because throughout this film, she expects to go out overseas or like travel with Brian, and since he usually on a boat more so than anything, she's trying to overcome her fear of the water. And almost every day, not every day, but every once in a while, she goes to the water taxi downtown, and there's this bald guy she always bumps into somehow. It's always him, and he gets so frustrated. It's like she's holding up the line while she's like tippy tapping on the dock, or not the dock, on the side of the boat, and she's one foot on the boat and the other foot on the dock. Is like, kind of like, trying to really work up that courage, but she just couldn't do it. But Henry, it's kind of like the doctor. Like you at the doctor as a kid, and like you get some kind of got a boo boo or something like that, and or you're trying to get like a shot, and you're trying to distract the kid while you do like you have to do your thing. And essentially that's what he did, and I think that was a very sweet and very a creative writing on the movie's part. And it's like he's holding this woman's hand, you keep an eye contact, kept calm, reassuring, like I'm with you, like don't worry about it. Just talking about other stuff while he's easing her onto the boat, and she's on the boat, and they ride in the taxi, and it's like I thought, yes, that is like a decent. That's probably the best, version of like a relationship in like a film. It's like at least one of the few that actually likes. Usually when it comes to romantic comedies or romantic films, I usually kind of like groan at because like most of the chemistry or whatever kind of thing is being written doesn't look realistic. There is a Keanu Reeves Winona Ryder movie I want to do for February for like Valentine's Day kind of thing. Called Destination Wedding. That is another movie I want to review because I think that's honestly another movie that I think has the most realistic type of relationship I've seen in a film. And it's like, it's not corny and like overly dramatic like CW crap. But yeah, they go to this Bulls game and they do the kiss cam thing, which I need to know. How do they just randomly pick? Because when I went to the White Sox game with my sister, there's part of me that's getting worried when like they got the jumbotron and like they point a camera at, like I kind of feel personally like they do it randomly with two people that have to be a man and a woman, and they point it at it, and make like a big kiss cam and like having like these two people kiss. Like, how these people are not like related? It's like it's just you having like or just, well, I don't know about the whole two random strangers. Oh yeah, even then, like it's just like two random strangers kind of situation. A guy brings his girl to like a Bulls game, and she happens to be sitting on the and like a guy might be sitting on the opposite side of her, and and he's with his girl or something, and like they have to like they have to kiss because it's a kiss cam thing. It's like, how will they know? They just randomly. I want to look this up, or at least somebody tell me. At least I gotta ask, because what is that? It's like, how would you know without it making it look awkward? It's always something that's always bugged me, honestly. But anyway, they share a kiss, and of course, on the limo ride back home, it's like that. They obviously liked it, but it can't like, put a step forward and like admit that they're actually into it, into each other. And the guy talks to his limo driver that he's been driving around, and it's like he's not like one of those wise old dudes or anything like that. But you start asking. Henry asked the limo driver, like, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" And like, "Oh, absolutely, sir. I've been with my wife for 16 years. 16 years? You look like you well within like mid to late 30s. So I mean, it's possible. It could be high school sweethearts, some kind of situation like that. But it's like, apparently after like, because he tried to propose to her after the third date, she said no. But after the fifth date, ironically, the fifth date, it's like I proposed and she said yes. And it's like that part, like I find like bonkers. It's like, dude, you would look like a freaking creeper if try to propose to a chick you only dated for 5 dates with. You haven't even lived with this chick yet, because you got to be comfortable with the, a significant other. Get used to their farts, their crazy way of snoring, drinking out of a milk carton or something like that. It's like, like the, girl has to get comfortable with you to be able to, look raggedy in the morning with bad breath and stuff like that. Because usually girls, if they're only dating you for the first couple of times, they don't want to look like all disheveled in front of you in first morning kind of situation, unless it's like a one night stand kind of stuff. But there's steps to this kind of situation, and I thought that was kind of dumb. But then after some encouragement from her friend, she's trying to like, hey, you're obviously into this dude. You light up every time you talk about him. And so when she tried to go to his hotel to like confess her love, she of course got that obligatory misunderstanding. Some former girlfriend of his that he ended a long while ago tracks him down. Of today of all days, tracks him down. And it's like, how do you even get here when it's the day before Thanksgiving and the traveling and everything like that? I don't know where he was coming from, but I imagine it's like, it's just weird. It's a poor, like, weird timing, coincidental timing. And then she, misunderstands the situation without even, like, talking. That's probably the one time, at least one of the few times out of this movie where the dialogue kind of, or at least the writing kind of fell flat. Because you got, like, the forced drama. And without allowing the guy to explain or anything like that until the very end. And then she accepts the faux proposal by Brian, who just shows up at her job and proposes in front of everybody, which is weird in and of itself, like, because of course, she just allows herself to accept the proposal, even though, it's, weird that you're doing this in front of everybody and my coworkers and my job. Secondly, you're only doing this because any woman will see, like, or anybody in general will see, like, you're only doing this knowing full well that, like, I wanted it in the first place, but you didn't have that presence of mind about it. You're doing this now, and it doesn't mean much you doing it now because it feels like you're just doing it because I want it. You should do it because you want it too. Or you should have been wanted it kind of situation. Because, not for nothing, but like there's a girl that like, I had a thing with, what year did John Wick 2 came out? Somewhere around that time before John Wick 2 came out. It was this girl, but of course, like, she was with somebody, but, she knew he had like a engagement ring, but he didn't officially propose to him. He just had his, stashed away that she found one day, but he still haven't proposed to her. And once again, it's been like, what she told me, like at least about to be 4 years almost, while they was together, and they lived together, and he still haven't popped the question. And the way she was like, hugged up on me doesn't seem like, she was, I don't know. But I don't know the situation. But it's just that, if you have it, if you're, planning like a particular moment to pop the question, but get the jump on it. Like if I got a girl a ring and like been together for like, let's say like 2.5 years, and I got her measurements of the ring finger, and I got the ring, spent tons of money on it, which is, engagement rings gotta be tons of freaking money. As soon as I get it, at least a month or two, I should be like, well, I should have probably been, a guy would probably been tell the parents I want to ask your daughter's hand in marriage kind of situation. Have that out the way. This kind of like a traditional standard thing. But if I had the ring, I got at least a month or two to plan out what I want to do to pop the question and make it memorable and romantic kind of situation. You don't have it stashed, tucked away somewhere X amount of months, well into a year before you haven't done anything with it. It's just like, you might have his reasons, but it's kind of thing in this movie. It's like, you don't do this here. Are you that? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Brian has his head up his own ass. He is only self-absorbed. He's not the worst kind of like former, boyfriend or girlfriend type of character in this. Is kind of one note in a way, because it's like there's layers to the two main people, even to like the best friend of Emily has some layers to them. Everybody else seems like they're almost like just roughly one note, but it's just like, come on, man. I thought that was like so. And like most people in there probably know about like because her secretary was in tears, like very dramatic woman too. It's like she is like trying to win that Oscar for a Hallmark movie, for God's sake. And she's, oh my God, if it was me, I don't know what to do. It's like, whoa, okay. It's like, okay, calm down, Helen Mirren. Okay, jeez. But it's like, clearly The Office, knows about the whole bad breakup she had with that piss poor, she expecting like a proposal around that time, and he, when he got back and he didn't do it, and that ended badly. Everybody obviously knew, and the fact that they are encouraging without. Why are you applauding him, like, proposing in front of all you, even though you all know what this man did? You don't think there's like any red flags. Somebody would have at least pulled Emily to the side, not in front of everybody, but pulled her to the side at some point and say like, yeah, I didn't want to do it in front of everybody, but the fact that, we all know he kind of effed up, at that restaurant, and he's, and he's just now proposing, even on normal circumstances, whereas like, when you're, what I'm about to say is like, okay, he, like, you were expecting a proposal kind of situation or whatever like that, but he wasn't about that. But he kind of rushed and got a ring, and it's bad enough he's like rushing and got a ring and trying to propose, trying to get you back. You're pretty much like a almost like a, not arm candy, but kind of like a status symbol kind of situation. He doesn't care at the end of the day. He's not like one of those like rich assholes that like treat you like a woman, like an arm candy kind of situation or whatever. But he's just like all about his own career and what have you. And it's like you're just there for him. It's like you're just there to be there. But in other circumstances, it's already usually like a typical thing you see in like some movies like this, is where like if, or even realistically, if somebody's having like a bad argument, like a really bad argument between two couples having like a bad argument, the other person should not try to make up by proposing. That is bad, like a really bad, and that will definitely raise red flags. Like, don't be with me, just don't propose to me just to apologize and try to make up. That is bizarre. I don't know what goes through a person's mind like that, who would do something like that, honestly. But uh, when towards the end, when Emily finds out about how, you know, he Henry wasn't born into his fortune, he was adopted by a his kindly rich parents, and they had a tradition apparently of bringing orphans to the penthouse to see the parade from, like, a nice little setting, have a nice meal, and just like experience that kind of stuff, and experience the parade and everything like that. He was adopted by that couple, and like he continued the tradition. So really kind of, like I said, add layers to a guy that normally in these kind of films would be portrayed as one note, or just, like a jerk. He usually is a bad guy in this kind of situation, or these kind of movies. Henry will usually be played like a bad guy. And I like the fact that, they don't go with the same trope in these kind of movies that they usually do with, like, oh, he's like a local handyman, that's a handsome handyman that, who also, knows about, like, business, and he does odd jobs around the town and everything like that, and everybody loves him. He's like the local boy who happens to be single, which is, by the way, when they do movies like this, let me get some water. When they do movies like this, I let's say he was a handsome guy in a local town. He's the local handyman, but he also, like, I don't know, the local math teacher or something like that of like a nearby high school. And some girl who just happens to be in town and like, doing like some kind of business or whatever like that, and they meet and everything like that. What are the odds a guy like that is just single, and like a person just shows up and all of a sudden, oh, love at first sight kind of situation? Like, you think a guy that handsome will be single forever? He may be like a great person in the world, but he's still a guy, and he would have at least one girlfriend that he's like, either official or about to make official. There's no way that he's gonna be single for a long time. And like, usually in movies like this, they try to push him like, oh, you're such a nice man, you should be finding yourself a girl. He should have several girls. He should be banging like the drama teacher or something like that kind of situation, and the local librarian, who I believe will probably be hot too, and not some crazy old lady. I'm just saying. But anyway, at the end, she gives back the ring to Brian, told him to F off, and then she sees Henry in the parade dressed as Santa, and of course they make up in front of everybody, and the movie ends. Is anything I'm forgetting here? What did not cover? I like, Emily's quirkiness. Like, she had the quirkiness down packed. The actress did like a fine job in this movie. I actually did like her. Oh, the fact that, like, when she's telling Henry about love, I like the fact that, like, the spot on writing, because, like, he played it well. It's like, he said, like, you make love sound like a suicide pact. It's just, that cracked me the hell up. Yeah, I pretty much covered like all I want to talk about. But yeah, this movie, like, I honestly, it might not be for everybody, but I honestly would suggest you guys give this a shot. I'm pretty sure it's being showed a few times on Hallmark, but if you have like maybe Amazon Prime, you can easily look it up and check it out, because it's actually pretty decent. It's one of the few decent, good Hallmark Christmas movies that's, not horribly bogged down with the cliches. It is, written pretty doggone well. So yeah, definitely give Love at the Thanksgiving Day Parade, a chance, and yeah, I got at least how many other Hallmark movies? I think I know I got like one more I want to do right after. Oh, like well later on tonight. So no, I think I just got one more to do. Everything else I'm going to be no. I got two more. Yeah, one is actually technically a Hanukkah movie. One of like another smartly written movie, Mistletoe and Menorahs. So yeah, that's another one I'm going to be doing probably next week or the week after. But it's one of like a few Hanukkah movies that I actually thought is treated very respectively for that religion. And you might learn some things about like the the holiday of Hanukkah. So, but yeah, there's one more tonight at least I want to cover. But besides those two, everything else is gonna be like Christmas movies that you probably would have seen at some point in your life. All the class stuff. So yeah, look forward to those. Once again, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Follow me on my Patreon, patreon.com/talkativecarl. If you have any ideas for reviews that you want me to cover, comic book, general topics, like video games or anything like that, movies that you particularly care for that you want me to check out. So yeah, I mean, like just give the tiers a look over and see which one that better fits you. You can just go with the minimum tier if you so choose to. But I just appreciate your support just by clicking the like button and checking out these videos. I'm doing like a ton and I'm getting a lot of views, especially comes to my chaotic lore videos. Those I'm getting a whole lot of love, and I thank you all for that. And like my viewer counts subscriber counts are just definitely just increasing. It feels like almost day by day. So you guys are just phenomenal. Yeah, so definitely let me know what you guys want to see. Like, is there anything, or at least I make discussion videos just for me, just general just topics I just want to just talk about in general, where it's like something that happened in the news or just random geeky conversations. So check out those discussion videos, because I am going to be doing one talking about Jubilee, thanks to the X-Men, the 90s X-Men TV shows that's been given a lot of news lately. It kind of sparked another discussion video I want to have possibly tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe Monday, because I want to probably give myself a break on Sunday. But I want to discuss how you make a Jubilee solo movie. That's what I want to talk about. So look forward to that. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in a few minutes. And yeah, take care.